and I have been here now for 33 years. And that always shocks me because, like so many people you heard tonight, it was like, I don't think so. And then it turned out to be not only the blessing of my life, but an amazing career and one that continues on in that fashion in just a wonderful way. And I think at this point in time, we're truly is truly a mission. I think we, have been prepared for a long time, or preparing, I might say, for where we find ourselves in the world today, and what is really needed. And so many people, I think the world is awake, as I've said before, to the fact that, a strong immune system is your best defense, and that we have that certainly to offer. And so many people, in pain and struggling as far as economics are concerned. And we really are here to help people make a difference. So a product that everybody needs and is looking for, and, people who can turn around and share that are just going to be, I think, the answer, or one of the uh, powerful answers for our world today. And we're really a big part of that, which is exciting and invigorating, but also I think very important to to be aware of and to participate in. So maybe let's do this since we are getting started just a little late. Next week we'll go to the pay plan, and maybe you want to invite people to go through that with us. I think that pay plan or compensation plan, the way we're paid basically is a very important part of what we do, because if you're going to really be in business and be business minded, you want to know how that income is created, because then you can make the decisions to really create a business that expands in a way that's going to give you the ability to take full advantage of the potential of that compensation plan. But tonight, why don't we do this? Why don't we have a question and answer? And maybe you also, if you would like to share with me topics that you would like to hear about, learn, know more about, feel like in your business would be something that would enhance it. Why don't we do that? Because we have about 20 minutes, and the pay plan usually takes me about 35 minutes. So let's do that this evening, as do question and answer. So who might have something or have a topic that you would like to discuss over the next few weeks? I do like bringing other national marketing directors along with me on this Thursday night, and we usually have a surprise guest. But tonight, I was thinking about the pay plan, and so we're going to do that next week. And so who might have questions or suggestions or anything I can help you with at this point? We'll just look at this as a personal consultation from a coaching standpoint. So anybody who might want to ask any questions or get any info or make suggestions for topics that you would like for us to cover on this Thursday night.
Hi, Cheryl. I've got a question.
Okay. Hi, Candace.
It's Candace. I love this call. I'm eating a late dinner. My question is, I'd love to hear you share the kind of verbiage that you teach your team to invite to three-way connection. I know we're going to be having that three-way connection teaching call on Wednesday. I've really promoted it to my team, the Wednesday Cortese call at 10:30. But I just love, that's the biggest stumbling block I find for some people. They don't know how to ask their friends or how to share. I'd love to have you hear my friend's story. So I'd love, however you like to teach on that. I just think it never gets old and it's so important. Thank you.
Well, I'd be happy to share with you what I do, and I'd love for others if you want to chime in on maybe what you do. I will give you a little background in that, being here 33 years, when I first started, all we had was a rotary dial phone, of course. Technology, it seems like, hadn't been invented in those days. And we've certainly evolved over the years. And we didn't have conference calling either. So if you were going to talk to somebody and, you want to have that support behind you, you and your sponsor would have to go in person, or the person would have to be in the house with you on the other extension. So and my sponsor, I lived in Louisiana, and my sponsor, Jeff Roberti, lived in Florida. So he was there 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, my first 2 weeks, and in New Orleans with me. And so we tried to do as much as we possibly could because I had him there in person, and I knew I wouldn't have him as the support for, the being able to tell somebody with me the story of the product or the business. And when I first started my business, that very first week, I remember Jeff looking at me and saying, listen closely, read my lips. I can remember looking right at his lips to make sure I was reading it correctly. And he said, this is the entire foundation of your business. He said, Cheryl, you bring the people and I'll bring the presentation. And so that has been the foundation of how I dealt with every person who's ever started with me in my business. Today, if we look at this call, you're all somewhere in my family, okay, of the Juice Plus family. You're in my family, so you're my babies. So, just that telling someone has brought us to the point where, as an organization, we have thousands of distributors worldwide in this team. And so if I look back on that one instruction, it made the difference in my entire future, was for him saying, Cheryl, this is the formula. This is the whole thing. You bring the people, I'll bring the presentation. And he said, after you've heard the presentation often enough, then your people will bring the people and you'll bring the presentation. Their people will bring the presentation and they'll bring the presentation. And then that duplication will just happen. Well, as I said, we had to do that either in person or somebody being on the other extension in the house. Well, when conference calling first came out, I was like, you got a conference line. I was just, amazed at that two people now could talk. Jeff could get on the phone in Florida. I could be on the phone in Louisiana, and we could talk to my new person. So for me, it was just the vision of it, the thought of it, the excitement of the fact that I could move faster, easier, simpler, because that person who was the authority was going to be the one behind me and could be behind me, stretching out across the town, the state, the country, the world. And so it was a huge thing. It was huge. And of course, today it sounds so silly because technology can practically do everything on its own. But it was just that realization that if I had that support behind me, and in every call, especially initially, and that the learning process for me was that I heard Jeff tell it over and over and over. And before long, I was saying, I can tell this myself, okay? And then my people were beginning to bring their people. So first of all, I really just took it, I guess you would say, as something that was foundational, that was part of my functioning, that needed to happen for this to happen. It wasn't a choice in a sense. It was almost, it's like if you're going to make up a really great dish in the kitchen and the recipe is lined out just exactly right for you, and you follow the recipe, you're going to get the result. And so it was the recipe. It was the recipe for success, was that I would bring the people, Jeff would bring the presentation. I would learn the presentation. I would listen to the questions. I would hear him answer the questions, and the manner in which he did it. So really, it was training in action. And I saw that as part of the recipe as well, training in action. And then we were doing business at the same time. I was being trained, and then I was getting the result. And I was getting the result with the support of somebody who had more experience. He'd been in it, for at least a year longer than I had. And I could learn what he said. So then when my new person started, I really describe it as, this is going to be the function of what we do to be successful. So most people, when I start someone who's brand new, I'm going to, first of all, find out what it is that they really want. Not so much what they need. People will do a lot more for what they want than for what they need. And I've learned that over the years. But we're looking for what is it that is going to be very, very important to them. We talk about the why, what got you. I started with someone today, and the question I asked was, what is it that's more important to you than what anybody else thinks of what you do, or why you're doing it, any of those things. What's more important? And so, she came up with that heart thing that says, more important than anything is that I make sure this happens in my life, that and it usually has something to do with a real fear or a wound or something of that nature, where you want to make sure that your life is secure financially. And so we're going to have that conversation before we ever get to the conversation of, this is the logistics of what makes this work. So I'm looking for, what is it that is going to give that person the strength if somebody rejects them? We talk a little bit about rejection too. Rejection's hard, and nobody wants to be rejected. But we talk about the fact that, for everybody that hears our story, it's really not about us. It's about how it's going to affect them. So then, as I share with people, okay, and I'll say it this way, I say it this way all the time. My responsibility is to make sure that you get a check, a check that is going to be enough, that you're going to feel like it's worth your while to put your time and energy into what we're doing. And so for me to do that, we're going to have to talk to lots of people together. And I'm here to go to work for you. And this is something too that I want my new person to realize, and to really take advantage of in a way, but to also be cognizant of, is that for them, if we're looking at business and being business minded, time is money, and we only have so much time. So we want to utilize that time. The person may have and usually does have, another full-time job. Today, of course, life is very different. They may be at home juggling all kind of things. Kids, on virtual school, we have that here. Trying to, keep up with, I feel like I cook 360 meals a day now. And so, because you're trying to take care of everybody all around you who's in the house. So there's a lot going on usually in the world where people are going out to work, or the world that we're dealing with today. But in all these years, what I have looked at, and what we look at to begin with, is, how serious are you about what you want from this? So first of all, it's what you want. And then I always ask for, what amount, what check would need to show up in the mailbox to make you smile? Okay, so we're gonna talk about that too, that, in the short term and then in the long term. And I have all these discussions before we get to, you need to put me in front of people. Okay, so that we've really identified, what are the heart feelings? What are the logistics going to be? How do we put a business plan together that's going to work and going to pay? So if I ask people, what is it? If you could have, and this question has worked for me for many years, if you could, look at your life, look at the maybe 5 years from now, what do you want that financial picture to look like? If it could be anything you want to in 5 years or 10 years, what would you fill those spaces in with? If it's a blank wall over here and we're going to make this wall your financial future, what does it look like? And so I'm looking there for, what are the things that are important to that person as far as their future? For me, it was the beginning thing was to make sure my children had a college degree, because as a teacher in Louisiana and a single parent, I couldn't afford to send my children to college, even though I taught in a university. It was just a poor pay situation. So that was my first thing. And then, of course, as the picture, people, expanded because they begin to dream a little, which, for many people doesn't happen after life gets, just more demanding. So I'm looking for those things first. If I ask someone, and over all these years, when I say, how much would have to show up in the mailbox for you to smile? And it's usually somewhere between $500 to $1,000 to $2,000. Today, what I hear most frequently is about $1,000. And that's why we talk on this call about the Comma Club. We want to make sure, and we'll go through that next week on the compensation plan, but we want to make sure that we get people to that point where it's 1,000, because for most people, that's the place where that's going to really make that difference. So we've determined, what it is that's really important to them. We've determined what they want for their future, what's really important, what's going to be the driver that's going to, help them get up in the morning and this be on their mind. It's going to help them weave this story through their day, whatever their day is. It's going to make sure that even though they get disappointed or rejected, because it's going to happen to you. There are going to be people who love this idea, and there'll be people who won't like this idea at all. And you won't be able to prejudge or predetermine who will and who won't. So you really have to kind of build that emotional barrier, you might say, around you. But then we're going to get down to my responsibility to you is I'm here to go to work with and for you. We're going to do it together. Together is a very important word. And then we're going to, my responsibility is to make sure that we get that return. And the way that happens is that we're going to talk to people together. And I usually share with them what Jeff said to me, this is the formula. You bring the people, I'll bring the presentation. So when we talk about three-way call, so now finally, Candace, I'm getting to the answer, okay? When we talk about three-way call, I make sure that if it's someone who, comes into our business and my, first, second, third line, besides my own line, I'm going to do a welcome call. A welcome call is very important because that's the first time that person has an experience on three-way, and it's a good experience. If it's somebody that I have brought in personally, I'm still to this day going to ask Jeff or Bertie to get on a call and welcome that person to the Juice Plus family and welcome them to our team. And Jeff's going to say something like, you're really lucky you have Cheryl. She's the best there is. But I'm going to use Tracy as an example here. If Tracy has, if Tracy has a brand new person that she's recruited, then, and I'm the sponsor, I'm going to call with her, welcome that person, and say, you're so lucky that you have Tracy. And this is true, because she's one of the best there is, and so then I am going to position her to be able to lay out the business plan. And the person has now had an experience of a three-way call, because the welcome call. So then I can say to my new person, Tracy could say to her new person, well, the easiest way, especially today, the fact that we're all virtual, is we're going to talk to people together, and we won't have to get in the car and go to their house to do it. We'll be able to do it right on Zoom. And so then we're going to, at that point, I have what I call my homework sheets or the profile sheets. And my new person, we go over those together. And I want the names of at least 15 people that they really like, love, or admire. Now, the reason I want people that they really admire and care about and have heart for is that people who like and admire each other tend to think alike, or they wouldn't like and admire each other that much. I mean, they may be friends or acquaintances, but they wouldn't have that kind of connection. People who think alike and admire each other tend to have the same, everything from vision of the world, philosophy of life, all of this. So my chances of helping someone bring on teammates, if it's people that they feel this way about, are much greater. So I know statistically that if I have the names of 15 people that my new team member really likes, admires, really enjoys, maybe they think they're not only, wonderful people. I mean, it's whatever it is. You just need to find out what it is that they like, love, or admire. that they're gonna think alike. And usually statistically out of 15, I can get at least 3 to 5 new team members from those 15. Now, before we call those 15 though, it's very important that my new team member feel real comfortable about how that's going to happen, because people seem to have this fear that, all of a sudden I'm going to turn into this person who's going to get on the phone and try to capture their new person and at all costs. Okay. And that's not the case, because really what we're doing is we're creating exposure to give someone an option for better health or a better life financially. So we've gone over those homework sheets, and now I'm the secretary for the person who is my new person. And they're going to tell me about the person. They're going to tell me, maybe what their profession is. I've got this all written out in a form, so that I send it to the new person and they fill it out. And so I'm going to learn enough about that person that I will be able to more or less shape, the story around if they're a young parent, if they have children. And then the children's health study comes in there, as we call it, healthy family starts now. If they're going into retirement, if they have children who are going into college, I want enough knowledge so that when we do have that three-way call, I'm already prepared for a possibility of conversation. Usually they'll tell me, things about them that maybe I can draw from another story or my own story, so that there will be some, I guess you would say they can line up there's something they can identify with. But the most important question I'm going to ask my new person is, what do you really like, love, or admire about the person we're going to call? And they'll tell me, and I make sure I write it down exactly the way it's been said. And so then I tell the new person, this is how we're going to go about it. You can invite, the person before, and we schedule a time, or we can call them impromptu if you feel comfortable to do that. And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes, they're going to think about people and then, schedule a time. But I tell my new person, the first thing I'm going to say after you introduce me is that, Tracy's told me an awful lot about you. And, I don't know if she'd tell you this, but one of the things she really loves and admires about you is. And so I'm going to transfer a heartfelt feeling that Tracy would have about this person to the person. And the next thing I'm going to say is, I have no idea if what we're doing is something that would be of interest to you, but Tracy said if she could choose anybody to work with, it would be you. So I'm going to share with you my story, what we do, from a business standpoint with Juice Plus. And I'll tell them a little bit about what attracted me. It's not going to be long, not more than 30 seconds probably, of what attracted me, why I love the product, and what I really love about the business. And again, that's heartfelt. And so then I'll say, would you please tell me all about you, because I'd like to hear more about you, Tracy. And then if I haven't said everything that she liked and admired, I'll say the rest of it. And I'll say, she certainly told me, so tell me about you. Now, as she's telling me about herself or himself, it's men and women, I know enough background to know, and I might even say when I first am talking to them, I understand you have 2 children, or you have 2 children in college or going to college. And when I started this, that was a big thing for me. I really wanted to be able to support my children in college. So if there's something to connect, I will. But then I'm going to listen to the person and really work at getting enough of I guess you would say, a foundation for a relationship started, that I can just say enough about our product and our business so that there will be further interest. I'm not trying to close that person on the phone, so to speak, as far as the product or the business, unless, of course, it's my own front line and I'm working with that person. But now, if I'm working with their new person, which is what we're talking about, I'm doing a 3-way call for that person, for my new person. My next thing is to schedule a time. So before we get on the call, the new person and I are going to say, okay, let's talk about what we want our outcome to be. And our outcome is we're going to, if the person wants more information about the product, I'm going to say, well, if we have time now, let me share with you, the basic information. It's just not that much. I'm not going to go into any research. I'm not going to go into, any big facts or details. On my desk, because I do this all day, okay, as I do three-way calls, I've got it right here. Okay, I'm going to talk about what it is, why I love it, but just very general. I might even say, food label, and look at what, do you recognize any of these things? Kale, cabbage, any of this. Okay, is just food. I'm going to say that. Now I'm going to, talk about a little bit about the complete. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the gummies. Now, I didn't bring that for this presentation. That sits on my desk all day long, okay? So that I can do it in the presentations of three-way calls that I do during the day. But it's be short as far as the product. It's going to be just enough information to give validation. And then I'm going to schedule a three-way where we go over the compensation plan. If there is interest, if there's interest in, and really, I'm not asking the person to think about it as they're going to go into business full time or they're going to even become a team member or a partner. But I'm going to encourage them, because Tracy would love to work with that person, are you open to taking a look at how we do our business? And then I'm going to go through that compensation plan. That is my format. I have been doing that for 33 years, okay? And then as soon as that person, gets their questions answered, and that's usually by the second or third call, statistically, a person is going to see this 3 times before they make a decision. Sometimes it's many more than that, but at least 3. And at that point, once a decision is made, then it's just repeat. I just repeat exactly what I've just shared with you. And I do that over and over and over. And the real joy in it is, really watching people as, the light comes on behind their eyes and they think, yes, this product it could be the answer. It could be the answer for me. Or it could, there's almost with some people, they get emotional or euphoric over, if I really had an answer to whatever. A lot of times it's around children and children's health. I'm going to invite people right away to this Thursday night call, because the stories are so powerful. The stories are what it's all about. But as soon as the person has decided, okay, I really want to pursue this from a business standpoint as well, we're going to go through that same format. Where is the wound? Where is the pain as far as their fears or what they're trying to make sure they're guarding themselves from, whether it's health or financial. And so we're going to work with that. So it's get to what is it that would drive you every day to make sure that you made this change in your life. And then, what are the logistics to make that happen? So they have experienced a 3-way call for, the introduction. They now are going to get a 3-way call from the upline, to welcome them. And we're just going to continue to work 3-way calls. And the whole idea is not that the 3-way call is not like the big thing in a way in my mind. What it is I get to talk to people simpler, easier, faster without getting in my car, driving to their house. So I get to expand across the world instead of across the street. And that's been huge for me. So hopefully, and we're a little past time again, I got one question, but hopefully that's been helpful to all of you tonight. And I think right now, it's a wonderful way to stay connected to people as well. I feel very, very blessed that this is my activity during the day. It always gives me a lift, I guess you would say, a good feeling to know that I'm either going to hear a story about somebody that loves the product or loves the business or loves the idea of it, or I'm going to see that hope that someone has, and that I'm going to be able to do something to help, fill that hope. then, because as Jeff says, that's really what we market. We market hope, and then we give you the logistical business plan or product to fill that desire. So anyway, I think we've covered more than time here, and as I said, I hope that's helpful. And next week, let's go to pay compensation plan. And as I said, I have that now kind of updated so that we've got the latest as far as the plan and the requirements. And we'll do that next week. So invite folks, and you all have a great week. And just tell everybody, because the truth of the matter is, if you don't, somebody else is going to. So you need to. I'll go tell them. Okay. So anyway, thank you much. And Candace, hopefully that was what you were looking for.
That was fabulous, Cheryl. I'm so glad that Carol's recording this. That was fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah. It's just day-to-day operations. All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Bye.
Have a great night. Thank you so much, Carol and Cheryl.
Okay, bye.
Bye.